The Houston summer heat was particularly fierce that afternoon as Beyoncé stood in her childhood home's attic, dust motes dancing in the narrow shaft of sunlight that pierced through the small window. She hadn't planned to spend her rare day off sorting through old boxes, but her mother's renovation plans had forced her hand. The house that had witnessed her first steps into music needed clearing out, and somehow, she'd volunteered for this task. Just a few more boxes, she muttered to herself, wiping sweat from her brow. The attic was like an oven, but something kept her there, a strange pull she couldn't explain. Maybe it was nostalgia, or perhaps something else entirely. Her fingers traced the edge of a familiar purple storage bin, one she remembered from her teenage years. Inside, she found the expected memorabilia, old Destiny's Child costumes, fan letters, and countless photographs. But beneath it all, tucked away in a corner, was something unexpected, a small, ornate wooden box she'd never seen before. The box was unlike anything else in the attic. Its dark wood seemed to absorb the light around it, and intricate patterns were carved into its surface, patterns that reminded her of musical notes, but somehow different, more ancient. A small golden latch held it closed, tarnished with age but still intact. As she lifted it, something shifted inside. Her heart quickened. With careful fingers, she undid the latch, and the lid creaked open to reveal a single cassette tape. The label, written in her own teenage handwriting, read simply, "The Dream Song, BK." "I don't remember this," she whispered, turning the tape over in her hands. The memory tugged at the edges of her mind, like a dream half-remembered upon waking. She had written countless songs in her youth, but this one was different. Her phone buzzed, her team wondering where she was, no doubt. But the tape demanded her attention. In a corner of the attic, she found an old boom box, probably left there from her practicing days. Her fingers trembled slightly as she inserted the tape. The first few seconds were silence, then static, then, music began to play. The melody that emerged was unlike anything she'd ever recorded. It was haunting, beautiful, and somehow familiar, yet completely foreign. Her own young voice, not yet shaped by years of training and performance, sang words that sent chills down her spine. The song spoke of dreams and destiny, but not in the way she'd written about them before. These lyrics seemed to hold hidden meanings, layers she couldn't quite grasp. As the final notes faded into silence, she felt different. The air in the attic seemed charged with electricity, and for a moment, she could have sworn the patterns on the box were glowing. Her phone buzzed again, more insistently this time. But Beyoncé barely noticed. She was already rewinding the tape, her mind racing. Why couldn't she remember writing this song? And why did it feel so important now? She didn't know it yet, but finding this tape would set in motion a chain of events that would challenge everything she thought she knew about music, magic, and her own destiny. The mystery of the lost song was just beginning, and its power was already beginning to work its way into her world. As she finally descended from the attic, the wooden box tucked securely in her bag, she couldn't shake the feeling that something fundamental had changed. The Houston sun was setting, painting the sky in brilliant oranges and purples, and somewhere in the distance, she could have sworn she heard an echo of that strange, beautiful melody. But this was just the beginning. The lost song had waited years to be found, and now that it had been rediscovered, it had plans of its own, plans that would take Beyoncé on an adventure beyond anything she could have imagined, even in her wildest dreams. That night, sleep eluded Beyoncé. The melody from the mysterious tape played on repeat in her mind, weaving itself through her thoughts like a persistent dream. She sat in her home studio, the wooden box open before her, its intricate patterns seeming to shift in the dim light. The tape had been transferred to digital format, and she'd spent hours analyzing every note, every word, trying to unlock its secrets. Around 3 a.m, something extraordinary happened. As she played the song for what must have been the 100th time, the room's temperature suddenly dropped. The studio lights flickered, and in their momentary darkness, the patterns on the box began to glow with a soft, golden light. Then she heard it, beneath her teenage voice on the recording. There was another layer of sound she hadn't noticed before. It was like a choir of whispers, speaking words in a language she didn't understand, yet somehow felt she should know. Her phone rang, startling her. The caller ID showed Mama Tina. "Baby girl," her mother's voice was urgent, unusual for this hour. "I just had the strangest dream about your grandmother." Beyoncé's heart skipped a beat. She'd been thinking about her grandmother all night, though she couldn't explain why. "In the dream," Tina continued, "she was singing a song I've never heard before, but she said it was important. That it was part of our family's legacy. When I woke up, I remembered something. Wait there, I'm coming over." An hour later, Tina arrived carrying an old leather-bound journal. Her hands trembled slightly as she opened it on the studio desk. "This belonged to your great-grandmother," she explained, carefully turning the yellowed pages. "I never told you this, but she was known in her community as a music healer. People said her songs could mend more than just broken hearts." The journal was filled with handwritten musical notes, but they were unlike any conventional notation Beyoncé had ever seen. They seemed to spiral and flow across the pages in patterns remarkably similar to those carved on the wooden box. "There's a story," Tina continued, her voice dropping to almost a whisper, "about a song passed down through generations of women in our family. A song with the power to connect past and present, to heal wounds deeper than skin, to reveal truths hidden by time. But it was lost, or so I thought." As if responding to her words, the tape began to play by itself. The studio equipment hadn't been touched, yet the song filled the room. This time, both women could hear the whispered choir clearly. Tina's eyes widened in recognition. "That's it," she breathed. "The healing song. But how did you?" "I wrote it," Beyoncé said slowly, "or at least, I thought I did. When I was young. But I don't remember doing it." The patterns on the box were definitely glowing now, casting dancing shadows on the walls. As the song played, images seemed to form in the shadows, women in different periods of history, all singing the same melody. Among them, Beyoncé recognized her grandmother's face. Suddenly, the music cut out, and the room plunged into darkness. When the lights came back on, everything appeared normal, except for one thing. The last page of the journal, previously blank, now contained a message written in fresh ink. "Find the other pieces. The song is incomplete. Time is running out." Beyoncé and her mother stared at each other in stunned silence. The mystery had just deepened considerably, and with it came a growing sense of urgency. What were the other pieces? Why was time running out? And most importantly, what would happen when the song was complete? As if in answer, Beyoncé's phone lit up with a text from an unknown number. "Tomorrow. Midnight. Congo Square, New Orleans. Bring the box." The coordinates of their next destination had been set, but neither woman could have predicted the incredible journey that awaited them, nor the ancient powers they were about to unleash. Congo Square lay silent under the New Orleans moon, heavy with history and secrets. Beyoncé stood at its edge, the wooden box clutched to her chest, while her mother kept watch nearby. The air was thick with humidity and the scent of magnolias, and somewhere in the distance, a jazz band played a mournful tune. As midnight approached, the square began to change. It started subtly, the grass seeming to sway without wind, the shadows growing deeper despite the bright moon. Then came the music, so faint at first that Beyoncé thought she was imagining it. It was her song, the lost song, but different, older somehow, as if she were hearing its original version. From the shadows emerged a woman. Her white dress seemed to float around her as she walked, and her silver hair was crowned with flowers. She moved with the grace of a dancer but carried herself with the dignity of a queen. "I am Marie," she said, her voice carrying traces of a Creole accent. "I've been waiting a long time for you, child. For the song to find its way home." Before Beyoncé could respond, more figures emerged from the darkness. 7 women, each from different eras, formed a circle around them. Their clothing spanned centuries, from colonial dress to modern attire, but they all wore the same knowing expression. "We are the guardians," Marie explained, gesturing to the circle. "For generations, we have protected the 7 songs of power. What you found is one of them, but it's not complete. Each song holds a piece of the others. The wooden box in Beyoncé's hands began to warm, its patterns glowing brighter than ever. Marie nodded at it. Open it here, in the sacred circle. With trembling fingers, Beyoncé unlatched the box. The tape inside had transformed, it was now a crystal that pulsed with golden light. As she held it up, each of the 7 women began to hum different melodies that somehow wove together perfectly. The crystal responded, projecting scenes into the air above them, a young girl singing to heal wounded soldiers during the Civil War, a woman's voice calming a crowd during civil rights protests, a mother's lullaby stopping a storm. Through each vision, the same melody threaded through, evolving yet remaining essentially the same. Your grandmother was one of us, Marie said softly. She knew her time was coming, so she split her song into pieces, hiding them where they would be found when needed. You writing that song wasn't just talent, child. It was destiny answering a call. Suddenly, the visions shifted to scenes of chaos, natural disasters, conflicts, suffering. The world is out of harmony, one of the other guardians spoke. The songs must be united before the discord grows too strong. But why me? Beyoncé asked, finally finding her voice. I don't understand. Marie smiled, touching the crystal gently. Because you have the rarest gift of all, the ability to make millions listen. These songs were never meant to be kept secret. They were waiting for someone who could share their power with the world. The crystal flared brightly, and new music filled the air, a perfect blend of the ancient melody and modern rhythm. Beyoncé felt it resonating in her very bones, awakening something that had always been there, waiting. There are 3 more pieces to find, Marie said urgently. Each hidden at a moment when music changed the world. You'll know them by how they make you feel, like this one did. But be careful. Others have sought these songs for centuries, wanting to use their power for themselves. As if summoned by her warning, a distant bell tolled. The guardians looked up sharply. They're coming, one whispered. Who's coming? Tina asked, stepping closer to her daughter. Marie pressed something into Beyoncé's hand, a small compass whose needle didn't point north, but rather spun in response to the crystal's glow. Follow the music. Trust your instincts. The next piece is where the blues found its wings and took flight to change the world forever. The circle began to fade, the women becoming transparent like ghosts. But Marie's voice lingered. Remember, the songs must be complete by the coming eclipse. Time flows differently for things this powerful, and time is running out. As the square returned to normal, Beyoncé stood holding the compass and the crystal, her mind racing. Her mother touched her shoulder gently. Chicago, Beyoncé said suddenly, understanding dawning. The next piece is in Chicago. Behind them, footsteps approached through the darkness, and a deep voice called out, "Stop right there." But Beyoncé and her mother were already running, the box clutched tightly, the compass pointing the way, and the lost song's melody protecting their escape into the New Orleans night. The winter wind whipped off Lake Michigan as Beyoncé stood before the old Chicago Blues Club, its neon sign flickering weakly in the twilight. After their escape from New Orleans, she and her mother had followed the compass's pull north, watching its needle grow increasingly agitated as they approached this historic building on the south side. Maxwell's Blues Corner read the weathered sign. The club had hosted legends, Muddy Waters, Howlin' Wolf, Willie Dixon, and according to the compass, it also held one of the missing pieces of the song. But they weren't alone. Someone's been here before us, Tina whispered, pointing to fresh scratches around the back door's lock. The marks were still shiny in the dim light, recently made. Inside, the club was a museum of music history. Faded photographs lined the walls, capturing moments when blues changed the course of popular music. The compass pulled them toward the stage, its needle spinning wildly. As they approached, a voice rang out from the shadows. "I wondered when you'd show up." A man stepped into the light, tall, distinguished, wearing an impeccably tailored suit. Professor Marcus Carter, he introduced himself with a slight bow. Musical historian, collector, and, Well, let's say I have a particular interest in songs of power. You're the one who followed us in New Orleans, Beyoncé realized. Guilty as charged, he smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. I've spent decades tracking these songs. The healing song, the storm song, the peace song, each with its own power. But united? His eyes gleamed. They could reshape the world. They're not meant for reshaping, Beyoncé countered, remembering Marie's words. They're meant for healing. Such a limited vision, Carter sighed. With these songs, we could control emotions, influence thoughts, direct the course of history itself. And now, thanks to you, I know where the missing pieces are. He held up an old chrome microphone. This is what you came for. The blues piece. Recorded in 1939, a song so powerful it made the very air electric. The singer disappeared that night, leaving only this microphone and a mystery. The crystal in Beyoncé's box began to pulse, resonating with the microphone. The air crackled with energy. Suddenly, the club's old speakers came to life, crackling with static before producing a haunting blues melody. The voice that emerged was otherworldly, neither male nor female, young nor old, but carrying all the pain and hope of generations. As the song filled the room, the photographs on the walls began to move like living memories. Musicians played, crowds danced, and through it all, the same melody wove through different songs across decades, inspiring and transforming. Carter reached for the microphone, but Beyoncé was faster. She began to sing, not just her part of the song, but all the parts she'd learned so far. The crystal flared brilliantly, and the mysterious blues voice joined with hers in perfect harmony. The effect was immediate. The microphone flew from Carter's grasp, drawn to the crystal's power. But as it moved, Carter pulled out a small device that emitted a high-pitched tone. The music distorted, and the crystal's light dimmed. A frequency disruptor, he smirked. Did you think you were the only one who understood the science behind the magic? But he hadn't counted on Tina. While Carter focused on Beyoncé, she'd made her way to the club's ancient sound system. With a quick prayer, she pushed every fader to maximum and hit the power. The club speakers roared to life, overwhelming Carter's device with a wall of sound. The crystal and microphone connected, and for a moment, every song ever played in the club sang out at once, a century of blues, jazz, and soul united in a single, perfect chord. When the echoes faded, Carter was gone, but he'd left something behind, a ticket to an upcoming event at the Lincoln Center in New York. On the back was written, "The final piece awaits." So do I. The microphone had merged with the crystal, its chrome surface now etched with the same patterns as the wooden box. They had another piece, but Carter's words were troubling. "The eclipse is in 3 days, Tina said quietly. In New York." Beyoncé nodded, her mind already racing ahead. The compass now pointed east, and the combined songs hummed with anticipation. The final confrontation was coming, and with it, a choice that would affect not just her, but the future of music itself. As they left the club, a young street musician was playing nearby. As they passed, his guitar naturally fell into harmony with the melody from the crystal, though he showed no sign of hearing it. All around them, Chicago's night music was subtly changing, becoming richer, more connected. The songs were awakening, and the world was beginning to listen. The Lincoln Center stood majestic in the pre-eclipse light, its white walls glowing with an otherworldly sheen. Inside the empty concert hall, Beyoncé stood center stage, the crystal and wooden box humming with barely contained energy. Her mother watched from the wings, while the compass spun wildly, sensing the final piece somewhere in the building. They weren't alone. In the seats, shadows moved, the guardians had returned, their forms more transparent than before. Marie's voice echoed through the hall, "The eclipse begins in 1 hour. The songs must be united as the shadow touches the earth." A slow clap echoed through the space. Professor Carter emerged from the shadows, but he wasn't alone. Behind him stood a group of people in dark suits, each carrying what looked like modern versions of his frequency disruptor. "Beautiful venue, isn't it?" Carter gestured around. Did you know the Lincoln Center was built on an intersection of ley lines? Sound behaves differently here. Perfect for our purpose. Our purpose? Beyoncé asked, buying time as she felt the songs within the crystal strengthening. Carter smiled, reaching into his jacket. The final piece. The original recording, made in 1923 on an experimental phonograph. He held up a small golden cylinder. Edison himself tried to destroy it when he realized what it could do. But I saved it. The crystal pulsed in response to the cylinder, and the air filled with static electricity. You see, Carter continued, these songs weren't just passed down through your family line. They were scattered across the world, influencing music everywhere. But united? They're a key to something greater. The ability to reshape reality through sound itself. He raised his hand, and his team spread out, surrounding the stage with their devices. Think bigger than healing or peace, he urged. Think about rewriting the very fabric of existence. And with your voice, your platform, we could change everything. But as he spoke, something extraordinary began to happen. From outside, the first sounds of the eclipse filtered in, birds falling silent, the city's rhythm changing. And with it, music began to emerge from everywhere, the building's pipes, the vibration of windows, the hum of electricity. The songs were awakening on their own. Beyoncé felt it then, not just the power of the songs, but their true purpose. She looked at her mother, who nodded in understanding. You're right about one thing, Beyoncé said to Carter. These songs were meant to change everything. But not through control. She began to sing, not the powerful, polished performance she was famous for, but something more primal, more real. The crystal responded, its light spreading across the stage. Each guardian added their voice, centuries of music blending together. Carter's team activated their devices, but this time the frequencies merged with the song, adding new layers instead of disrupting it. The golden cylinder in Carter's hands began to glow, its music straining to join the others. No. Carter tried to hold onto it, but the cylinder floated free, drawn to the crystal like a magnet to true north. As the eclipse reached totality outside, the songs finally united. The crystal's light filled the concert hall, and for a moment, everyone heard it, the pure music that lies at the heart of all things. Every song ever written, every voice ever raised in joy or sorrow, every rhythm that moved human hearts, all connected, all one. The crystal transformed, becoming pure light, and the music wrote itself into reality. Not changing the world, but revealing its true nature, a grand symphony of interconnected lives and stories. When the light faded, Carter and his team were gone, but not destroyed. They could be heard faintly, their voices now part of the endless song, their discord transformed into harmony. Marie and the Guardians appeared one last time, their forms now solid and real. You understand now, Marie smiled. The songs were never about power over others. They were about revealing the music that connects us all. Beyoncé looked down at her hands. The crystal had become a simple necklace, warm to the touch. The compass had transformed into a small musical note charm. The songs are part of you now, Marie explained, as they are part of all music. Your task isn't to keep them safe, but to share them. Every time you perform, every time you create, you'll be revealing a little more of the great song that binds all things together. As the eclipse ended and light returned to New York, Beyoncé held her mother close. Around them, the city's sounds were returning, traffic, voices, footsteps, but now they could hear the music in everything, the subtle symphony of existence itself. In the months that followed, critics would say Beyoncé's music had changed, become somehow deeper, more connected. Her performances didn't just entertain, they healed, unified, revealed truths. And sometimes, if you listened carefully during her concerts, you could hear other voices joining hers, ancient and new, all singing the endless song that had always been there, waiting to be discovered. And in a small box in her studio, a cassette tape labeled, "The Dream Song," waited for the next generation, ready to begin the journey again when the time was right. Tell us in the comments what part of this story impressed you the most. If you liked it, Please like, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss the next videos. See you in the world of incredible events.